and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew. And you grew up good and wonderful. It was great just watching. Every day was like a privilege. Then the time come for you to be your own man and take on the world, and you did. But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Through the storm, whatever weather, cold or warm, letting you know that you're not alone. Holla if you feel like you've been down the same road.
AFC, Ravens, they control the #1 seed at the moment, but they've got a brutal schedule up ahead. And then you look at the Dolphins as the 2 seed. Okay, so right now the Dolphins would have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. But remember, the Chiefs beat the Dolphins in Germany, so if they had the same record, the Chiefs would leapfrog the Dolphins.
So I think even if the game was this weekend, I don't think they're concerned or afraid of the Bills. These are division rivals who played heated games. They've beaten these Bills. They've been beaten by these Bills. This feels like an NBA rivalry, like old Bulls Pistons back in the day. A lot of familiarity, a lot of chirping. Like, even if they do lose 1 or 2 and they have to welcome the Bills Week 18, they're not afraid. They're not intimidated in any way. You know, I hate assuming wins. It's hard for us because we're all looking at Week 18. And I would love to say that I'm concerned about the Bills going to the Chargers. It's a Saturday, it's week, they have a new coach. The new coach, if Herbert was there, I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Chargers thing was so bad last week. But we all kind of just decided, I'll speak for everyone, as fans of the game, you look at that Week 18 game and you're like, oh, that would be so fun. It would just be so cool as a fan. If you're the Dolphins, you're like, screw that. We're going to beat Dallas. We're going to beat Baltimore. And Buffalo isn't all that. They're going to lose one of these games. It's not going to matter that much. We want it as a present because just the matchup is so good. And I said it yesterday. I hope it's 150 degrees and the Bills just have to deal with it. But if you're the Dolphins, you're like, let's not even let it get to that. Let's start now.
To the playoffs. But I could see the Dolphins at #5 outscoring them. Do I expect it? No, I don't expect anybody to beat San Francisco. But one way you might have a chance is if Tua just goes nuts. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and those running backs who run like an Olympic track team go absolutely crazy and they beat him 51-48. Likely? No, but I could see it happening.
Miami. Now they're 0-3 against teams with winning records, but you know, to be able to go out and drop a 30-0 without Tyreek Hill shows you the depth of their talent. Raheem Mostert, 20 total touchdowns, most in the NFL. They can run, they can pass. There's a lot to like about this team. Tua leads the NFL in passing yards. They're a little like the West Coast Niners without the physicality.
Be their signature win, right? You know, they couldn't close the deal in Germany against Kansas City. You look at the teams they've beaten, there aren't a team over 500 in the mix, right? And they haven't solidified the AFC East yet. So not only does it, I think, you know, double, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of confirm what they believe about themselves. Pardon me for losing my words there. It also helps them win the East because when you look at that hot train known as the Buffalo Bills that's choo-choo-chooing up the tracks, all Buffalo needs is Miami to lose one game before Week 18, and then that game determines the division winner. So they have not clinched anything yet in Miami. So beating the Cowboys does two things. It gets them one step closer to locking up the division and most likely the #2 seed overall in the AFC. And #2, it answers the question, can we beat a really good team and a team over 500? Chargers under 500, Patriots under 500, Broncos are 500, right? Giants suck, Panthers suck, Patriots suck, Raiders under 500. Jets suck. Washington sucks. So now you've got 3 straight games against really good teams. Playoff caliber.
Go to number 4 to list. Give it to me right now. Yeah, bam! The Miami Dolphins. Why? I know the Buffalo Bills lost the early in the season. But that was weeks ago. The Dolphins are the leaders in the AFC. The Dolphins are 2 games ahead of the Buffalo Bills. The Dolphins have been handling their business for the most part, albeit against superior competition. One of the elite offenses in the game of football. And even with Tyreek Hill out, Jalen Waddle did his thing. Even had Stephen Ross waddling, okay? With the white. You get what we're coming from right there.
Well, welcome back to Feast TV, our feature for the week, Fearless. I'm the host, Sammy, co-host Steve Hallett, and panelists and the Feast TV crew of Madison and Eddie Chaput. The media, of course, had a field day again with all the Dolphins, haven't beaten anyone. It's the same old crap. Well, I, for one, I agree with Kyle crap this week when they said the Dolphins should not be afraid of anyone. They had the team, they're ready, and my expectation is the Dolphins. Now the real tough stretch begins. The playoffs begins. It didn't start last week. They start this week. But I want to start with you, Steve. I saw a lot of comments during last week feature presentation for the pod. A lot of negativity. A lot of people afraid that how this team was the same old Dolphins, the same old stretch. The Dolphins came out. They proved soundly that they're not the same team as always.
Yeah, so the title here is Fearless, and I think last week's game, coming off of a really, really bad loss, a demoralizing loss, in my opinion, to the Titans. If there's one image that we should get of who this team is right now, it's Andrew Van Ginkel. And I remember I was sitting out watching the game in the patio, Dolphin Cove back here, and they flashed up one time, and it looked like he had some gauze in his nose. And I said to my wife, I'm like, looks like he has gauze in his nose, but I'm sitting there thinking this dude is running. And my thought was, it left my head, but I'm like, how can this guy be doing what he's doing when he's got gauze in his nose? And then again, I forgot all about it in the midst of a 30-0 victory. And then it came out that he broke his nose. What did he play? 51 of 58 defensive snaps in that game. What an absolute beast. But we've seen an evolution this year. I alluded to it earlier in the show that there's an evolution to this team. And I really think that teams are who they are in chunks and in segments, and they can improve. They can get a little bit worse. They're like rubber bands. 2 weeks ago, we saw the Jets go and play the Texans, and they absolutely throttled them. So they're up there, but the next week they just snap back like a rubber band into who they really are before getting their butts handed to them by the Dolphins. So I think that the Dolphins are who they are. I think that we've seen, a little bit different where they weren't celebrating as much, where they weren't really doing those funny things that we saw before. But I think that that's not them punishing themselves. I think it's them realizing that it's one game at a time, but they aren't just going to be satisfied with playing, making the playoffs, with winning the division. They're getting their minds right at the right time. And, Tua said it out of, what was it, the Buffalo game? One of the games that they got beat really badly early in this year, that there was a humbling experience. And for some people in the locker room, he felt it was needed. It's one of those comments that in the past, if we'd heard that, it would have really sent ripples out there. And people were asking questions. Nobody really said a lot of stuff. But what did we do? We came out and we changed who we were. And I don't think Tua needs to go out there and make those statements anymore. I think that they internalize it. The veterans in the locker room, the Chubbs, the Ramseys, the Tyreek Hills. Ramsey and Hill know what it's like to win a Super Bowl. And they're there to produce for their respective sides of the ball, but they're also there to bring this team up to a championship caliber up here in their heads where they know that they belong.
Absolutely. Matt, you are the positive guy of the crew. I want to know your thoughts. There's the Dolphins fan, and even the Dolphins player, even the Dolphins fans, I truly believe they should be fearless. There's no time for us to be the negativity, the thinking about, well, here comes the down stretch, we're going to lose against the Williams. Personally, I don't think these are the same Dolphins.
Yeah, I think there's probably, and I certainly don't use this term lightly, but I'm going to use it here. There's certainly some PTSD with last year and the year before.
And warranted, because
and warranted, especially 2 years ago, if you remember, the year the tank for Tua year, and there were people, Dominique Foxworth, calling it criminal that they were putting out, guys nobody had ever heard of, and getting smoked in the first couple of games of the season. And then the next year, we were showing some progress, and man, we were hanging on for dear life. There were some injuries, and then last year with the awful 5-game slide, the playoffs were right there, and you call me the positive one, and every week in last December, we got this one. We're going to win it, and that's just my nature, and it was awful. I'll admit it. It was really awful to go through that. So I get it that fans, they have that. They're oh my God, now it's the Cowboys, and I really, hey Cowboys, you could have done us a favor last weekend. You really could have. But at the same time, I'm thankful for the way it played out, because can you imagine if the score was reversed, if the results of that game were reversed, that it was the Cowboys that ran all over the Bills? Twitter would be on fire right now. People would be selling their homes, they'd be moving out into the country, getting away from any kind of social media, simply because it would be unbearable. It really would be.
Mhm.
So the Bills kind of did us a favor to show that the Cowboys are human. Cowboys are coming in on a road game into Miami, and it should be a really. I'm so stoked about this game, because it has the potential. Obviously, if we win, we're in the playoffs, right? Um, and the ramifications that come with that. But to go back to your point, people need to just take a deep breath. I know people dwell on the past, like I just referred to with the 5-game losing streak. Even the Titans game still comes up. And Eddie said it a moment ago, these are still professional football teams. Even that one that I dump on all the time, still a professional football team. Steve mentioned them going into Houston and smoking the Texans, or the Texans coming to New York, wherever it was. They beat the hell out of the Texans. Any given Sunday, right? Any given Sunday, anything can happen. There's something different about this Miami Dolphins team. There's something significantly different than years past. I alluded to it in the beginning of the season, in the beginning of our shows. We would rely. Dan was out there slinging it, and you just knew we had a chance. But Raheem is slinging it too, and the defense is slinging it too. This is a different world, and I would encourage every Dolphin fan that can hear me, hear us, have some faith, man. This is going to be a really fun ride.
Absolutely. Eddie, you're the realistic one. You're the one who who bring us back to the ground where we're flying way too high. But you know, I truly believe this team is different. I truly believe that this team believes in themselves, and McDaniel personally, I think is gonna make sure this team reaches their goal.
Uh, if you go back to the Titans game, I don't know what it was. Just watching the game, even from the beginning of the game, I had an uncomfortable feeling
Mhm.
in that game. Just like something was off with the team. It really was. It was like, all right, we got the Jets next week, whatever. We got the Cowboys. This team is absolutely nothing. This week, I don't know. Right away, I felt confident. They looked different. They played different. I think Steve just touched on it. It's the Chubbs. It's Mostert, who's been in the playoffs. It's Wilson, even though he doesn't play much. He knows what it's Tyreek. Seeing him on the sideline coaching people up was amazing. Having Welker there, these guys, Ramsey, Super Bowl winner.
Mhm.
Having these guys there, it's different. They were confident last week. They were ready to play, and I cannot say they were ready to play in last year's. Because you always get the feeling we're Dolphin fans. It's going
Mhm.
to happen. It's going to happen. I don't remember any of that happening at the end of the year where they looked that confident. and that made me feel good. I think McDaniel has them focused, and I'm really looking forward to it. I was worried, just like Steve said, of course, Buffalo has to beat the brakes off of Dallas right before they play us. But I don't know. I have a different feeling this week. I think Miami's focused. I don't think they're going to care that Dallas lost. I don't think they're going to care Dallas is going to be fired up, because I think Miami's going to be just as fired up knowing they're in the playoffs if they win this week. So I tried to bring you down a little, but I couldn't. I have confidence, and if they let me down, then I'm going to punch somebody.
Not me. Well, Steve, any other thoughts about, it's all boots to the ground for the next 3 weeks. All the ones who have been resting, Holland should be expected to be back. Robert Hunt should be back, hopefully. They said Armstead played most of the game last week. They're key. If they're able to play and the Dolphins are focused, the Dolphins have very good chance at home to beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, we're coming up against a really, really tough team. And I did watch a lot of the Bills-Cowboys game, and I don't know what it was. All I've heard about Buffalo this year and their losses is how bad their offensive line was. Well, they ran up and down the field against what is one of the best defenses. I mean, if I look it up here, Cowboys overall top 6 defense, passing defense number 4, running defense. Okay, that's where it comes back to bite them. They're 19th, but still they're only giving up 117 a game. And Buffalo, the good Cook brother that can actually still run the ball, he ran up and down the field and just went crazy on them. So it is any given Sunday. I do have concerns about Austin Jackson being banged up because Micah Parsons, he's not a single side of the field rusher. He moves around from one side to the other, and they're going to have to be able to protect. I have a really good feeling. We had questions last week. One of our topics we were talking about, can McDaniel make that change? And I've talked about it throughout the entire season. Can McDaniel evolve his game plan? He still was pass heavy during that game, but he did some screens. And what do they say screen passes are? They're an extension of the run game. Absolutely. And they're out quick. He gets the ball out quickly and allows them to make plays. But we're going to have to run the ball. And if I can hope anything good comes from the Bills beating the heck out of the Cowboys, it's that they gave a blueprint for what to do. My thought is run the hell out of Mostert to the left side of the offensive line, because I don't know what the hell was going on over there, but they ran crazy. So we need a laser-focused team here. I think last week we had people saying, take down the basketball hoop out of the auditorium, ship them off to Siberia like Rocky and make them, train in the snow and beat them into submission. This team is going to be okay. Huge veteran presence. And Eddie, you brought up Welker, Fangio. Look at the core, the entirety of the organization of what they have there inside those walls of Davie. And there is no reason to believe that they shouldn't be confident coming into Sunday's game. And we just got to hope that our confidence is repaid with a good performance.
Absolutely. Matt, any last thoughts about the Dolphins next? I truly believe the Dolphins can pull this off. They can probably win all 3 games if they really do what they need to do, and they come out play like they did last week. No one can beat them.
Yeah, I think McDaniel might have watched our episode last week, because one of the things that I know Steve especially ranted on was the running game. And the first opportunity down in the red zone, they didn't stop until Raheem had his touchdown. And then they did it again. The running game was in full effect, which, of course, the beautiful thing was Jalen had the 60-yarder and ended up with 142 and a TD. But it was clear that something clicked against a really good defense. We'll give them that. That's a really good defense over there. And he stuck to his running game. I still don't understand the fades in the corner of the end zone unless the goal is to try and get a PI on the play. You don't have anybody you do have somebody 6'4", and I'm not really sure why you're not playing that much, but that's for another segment, maybe another episode. But
got a catch last week.
Um, the Sunday was a really, really cathartic episode in this season. And then I'm like Steve, I watched the Bills probably more like watching a car wreck because I had the Cowboys in my top 5 last week, and I don't know that they're in my bottom 5 now. But anyways, I'm really excited about how they have adjusted. The veteran presences that have been alluded to and spoken about are there. We're in good shape.
Before we go, Eddie, gonna give Jonesy's props about those 2 interceptions he got last week.
Well, I was going to ask Steve, is that who broke Van Ginkel's nose?
It's possible. That's
No, you know what I liked was exactly what Matt and Steve said. They ran the ball when they needed to. Now down near the goal line, they could have did it last week on 3rd and 4th down in that Titans game.
Yeah,
but they threw the whatever they were doing. I think they would have stuck it in early there instead of kicking that field goal. But they played well. I got to give props. I don't care. He didn't have a great game, but that man played on a bad calf the whole game. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever had that bad a calf. You can barely walk, and he did a pretty good job, Eichenberg, the whole game. He didn't have a bad snap. He stayed out there. If not, we were going to have some guy that was on his couch until that Wednesday be our center. So I'll give him props.
They said
All the
second
props
he
in the
was
world
back
for
in the
playing.
locker room, he had a boot back on his foot. So
Yes, right back on. That was a gutty performance.
again, that's another example, Eddie, of the difference between this Dolphins
Yes.
team and the Dolphins of the past.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect example.
Absolutely.
Dolphins